kinds of Tom.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rural Entrepreneurship Initiative webinar on finding and keeping talent. My name is Jeff Reed, and I'm the founding director of the Georgetown Entrepreneurship Initiative at the McGill School of Georgetown University. I'll be moderating today's webinar, and we look forward to having a robust conversation and helping out entrepreneurs all over the country. So, if you talk to entrepreneurs, especially those that are successful, you learn that one of the most important things that they will identify with the success of their company is the ability to attract and retain talent. It's the people that help them that make the big difference. And so today's topic is incredibly important. The companies that have the best talent are generally the ones that are the most successful. But of course, lots of entrepreneurs get swamped with HR issues. As you're growing your company, you probably don't have a professional human resources director until you're much, much larger than the early stages. Usually you might have 50 or more employees before you hire a professional HR director. That means the entrepreneur themselves are doing all of this work, the hiring, the training, the recruitment, the retention, the talent management, and all of these things. And so it is one of the most important things an entrepreneur can do. Of course, it can be especially challenging in a rural area where you might not have as many people nearby, and you might have special challenges to find the right specialized talent. So how do you deal with that? Do you have remote employees? Are there other ways to manage this challenge? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Grooming talent in rural America and finding the most effective service provider partners. And we're looking forward to a robust conversation. So today's speakers are Jody Keenan, who is a director with the Virginia Small Business Development Center, and Thomas Mirc, who is a senior manager at Red Hat and has been very involved with entrepreneurial companies for a long time. And so first, I'll turn it over to Jody. Jody, off to you.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you about finding and keeping talent. Next slide, please. Great. As the CEO of a business, whether it's large or small, your team is going to include internal players who I'm classifying in those green boxes as your managers, your staff, your employees, and you're going to have a slew of external players on that team as well that I'm lumping together in the advisor purple box. But you could also have external team members like suppliers and customers and maybe key partners or companies that you're joint venturing with. So the team is broader than just the folks that may be on your payroll. Next slide, please. Thomas will be talking about finding and keeping talent for your internal team, those green boxes, and I'll be talking about finding and keeping talent for your external team of advisors. Next slide, please. So the team of your advisors will be as broad and expansive as you want or you need. And this is just a sampling of the sort of advisors that you're likely to want or you may already have. Some may be free, like your mentors. You may be the client of others, like the accountant or the lawyer. But in either case, you want to tap into their expertise to help you manage and grow your company. I like to use bankers as an example when I'm talking about advisors, because initially you may only use your banker to handle your depository relationship. You might set up a bank account or might have set up a bank account where you were already doing business with personally. But at some point, as your company grows, you may find it necessary to take out a loan or a line of credit or some other financing mechanism. And you can make that application and completion process a lot easier if the banker already knows you and your business. So even if you're just having a depository relationship with your banker, invite him or her to your company, to your business. Add him or her to your mailing list or your social media outlets. Share your company's stories with your banker and all of these types of advisors. Send them referrals. Ask them for referrals to your business. You're really talking about building a relationship with these external experts or resources so that they can help you as you're trying to grow and manage your company. As Jeff mentioned earlier, most companies don't have this kind of subject matter expertise inside their business until they get to 50 or more employees. It's just cost prohibitive, and so you want to tap into all these other extensions of your company to give you the advice and guidance and help you solve these critical issues. In the beginning, you'll likely talk to a lot of people about your business idea, and they will all have an opinion and advice. So the challenge is going to be probably balancing the advice that you get with what you really need to help you. So you should be selective in choosing your advisors. First of all, know what you want them to do for you. And this can be difficult to focus in on and narrow down, so we'll get into that in just a moment. But since you'll likely pay for some of their services, like a lawyer, like an accountant at some point down the road, you really want to make an informed selection or understand how those advisors are going to grow with you as your business needs grow or change. So interview these individuals. In most circumstances, they'll give you some free consultation or free initial engagement because they're selecting and interviewing you at the same time. So remember that they're looking for business too. Ask them for referrals of other clients like you. Do a reference check. Really understand who these advisors are and what they're likely to give to you as you're growing your company. And just on a final note, when it's appropriate and feasible and accessible, I like to advise clients to select local advisors, particularly things like bankers. I mean, there are national banks and large regional banks. Often the regional or local or community banks are a bit more user-friendly for small businesses. So try to go local if it's feasible, but clearly there are going to be times when you'll have a subject matter expert that you need who's not going to be in your town or in your county or in your region. So you can't always be that parochial. Okay, next slide. So you're probably wondering, where might you find these advisors? Some of these suggestions are not going to be new to you, and there may be some that will be new to you. Next slide, please. First and foremost, depend on referrals. Ask the people you know. You'll have trusted CEOs and entrepreneurs in your network. You can click through these points, Judy. Sorry, yeah. You can. You'll have trusted CEOs and entrepreneurs in your personal or your business network, others in the community who have similar business needs. So ask them, who do they use? Who would they recommend? How did they go about finding an advisor? Your industry networks, whether it's your chambers of commerce or trade associations, professional groups of other businesses like yours who may have some specialized areas of need, and they would be a congregation point for potential advisors. Ask the people that you're currently engaging as advisors. Ask your banker who some of their other clients use as accountants. Ask your accountant who their clients use as attorneys. Ask your marketing consultant who they use as a web designer or graphic designer. So build on that. And then certainly mentors. Mentors I've thrown into this mix because I'm classifying mentors in this capacity as probably other business owners or subject matter experts who are giving you kind of 10,000-foot view direction and guidance, and they're kind of your trusted kitchen table. It can get a little isolated, certainly, as the CEO or the business owner. You don't always want to discuss every business challenge with your management team or with the rest of your employees. So having some outside advisors who are familiar with your business, that can give you some unguarded and candid guidance and direction can be really helpful as you're going through the evolution of business ownership. Okay, next slide, please. Another place to find advisors are from free or low-cost resource providers, and you can click on this slide too. Thank you. Many of these are, actually all of these are government-related, government entities. They can help you in a number of ways with the advisors. They can help you determine what sort of advisor you need, even just by talking and going in a meeting with someone from the SBDC or the Cooperative Extension or some other business assistance groups in your region. They've worked with many, many companies. They've probably worked with companies in your industry or of your sort. So they have some experience and familiarity of what other companies like you have done as far as gathering advisors and where they've gone to find advisors. They can also, these professional, or these resource providers are consultants in their own right. So they can help you prepare to understand what an advisor can do for you and maybe help you think more broadly about how to use those advisors. And then finally, they can certainly refer you to advisors. They probably will give you a list of several advisors, whether it's attorneys or bankers or accountants or marketing specialists or whatever the category is. They'll give you a list of a few in the region that they've worked with. And then it's really up to you to go, as I said earlier, interview these individuals and find out what they can do for you and try to develop that rapport and that relationship, and then ultimately select the one that kind of hits all of your hot buttons or your criteria. Let me just talk quickly about these kinds of resource providers. The Small Business Administration you're probably very familiar with. It's a federal agency that has a network of local offices around the country that provide one-on-one business consulting at no cost to business owners. They also provide training and conferences and education, both online and in person. The SBA website in and of itself is really rich with content on business management, business planning, access to capital. And then the network of small business development centers, SCORE, and the women's business centers, again, all over the country, provide that face-to-face, one-on-one assistance that can be so helpful to entrepreneurs. Your cooperative extension units or agents in your area are another fantastic resource, particularly active in the rural communities. So I would aggressively seek out those experts to find out what expertise they have. There's no harm in shopping all of these resource providers. Everybody's going to provide or come at your issue and at your situation from a different perspective, and that can only help you in kind of whittling down and narrowing your focus. USDA, again, really rich resources on their website as well as in the local communities. And then don't overlook state agencies in your home state, both state and county or city agencies or town agencies that focus on not just small business or rural development, but agriculture they have a huge priority on rural business development. Tourism, again, small businesses and support the tourism industry in your locales. And then, of course, the larger just generic economic development agencies. Again, all of these sources can provide free guidance and direction to help you select and understand which advisors you might need to grow your company. Okay, next slide, please. There also may be some specialty areas. So if you're wanting to pursue something like government contracting, both at the state or local or federal level, and you can click on this slide, thank you. For exporting, there is a network across the country of what is called the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or PTACs. They're very similar to the SBDC network. They provide one-on-one business consulting and advising and training, and they also have some market research and bid matching, where they can match your company up with procurement opportunities from across the country. Their focus is exclusively on government contracting, although their priority is federal contracting. They also do a lot of work in the area of state and local procurement, which might be an opportunity for you to expand your reach and diversify your market base in your business. Exporting, export.gov is a very robust website that has, again, a lot of content, a rich content on basic exporting. It's really aimed at new to export companies, and then they can also point you again to other resources like the SBDC or like state agencies who focus on helping businesses consider and expand internationally. The final resource that I'll mention here is a specialty that is called US SourceLink, and you can click on to the next slide. US SourceLink is a web-based portal. It comes out of the University of Missouri in Kansas City. It's a web-based portal that connects entrepreneurs with public and nonprofit resource providers in either one of these 19 states, or there may be regional programs in one of these states as well. It's a free resource. The idea is that entrepreneurs can go in there and type in your zip code and the type of assistance you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for financing or marketing assistance or business planning or government contracting. They have probably 200 categories that you can select, and then the database will whittle down to those resources that are in close proximity to you by zip code. As I mentioned, these 19 states either have a statewide or a regional navigation site to help connect entrepreneurs with these resource providers that, again, you may be aware of, but there's usually a half a dozen or a handful or so of resources that you're probably not that familiar with. It also can connect you with resources that are not just in your local area. So your geography, your town may not have, for instance, a women's business center, but another town in your state may have a women's business center, and that might be a resource that's important for you to be aware of that you might not otherwise have connected to. The final slide is the list of the websites that you can reference to find all of these resources that I talked about before. SBA.gov, of course, is a federal site that, while it has a lot of specific content for business owners and how-to information, it also can link you to the local resource providers at the Small Business Development Center or SCORE or the Women's Business Centers. The America's SBDC website, again, you can go in there and type in your zip code, and it will direct you to the local SBDC office in your community. There are 1,000 or almost 1,000 SBDCs, so every state has a strong network. SCORE, the same thing. By zip code, you can find a SCORE chapter. They're most often located with either with an SBA office in your state or with chambers of commerce. So you can find some free or some resources there. And then the others can just go through USDA. ABTAC is to find the government procurement office. And then export.gov, we referenced that before. USSourceLink.org, you can go in there, find out which state. If you're in one of those 19 states, find the local link to your SourceLink page, and then again, by zip code, connect up with some of these resources. So that's a quick tour of the types of resources external to your company that you might need to help you grow and expand, and places to go to help you navigate to determine and select advisors. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Judy. And I should have mentioned before, Judy knows what she's talking about. She's been advising Jody knows what she's talking about. She's been advising small businesses in Virginia for 18 years and running the statewide network for the last 11 years. And Jody, we really appreciate your time helping us out today. We may have some questions for you coming up in a little bit.
Great, thank you.
So now we're gonna shift gears from the external advisors to your internal talent. Hiring managers, hiring talent within your company, and we're gonna go over to Thomas Mirc. Tom has a history of helping companies grow. He's worked in small businesses. He's also worked in one of the world's fastest growing startup companies or software companies in Red Hat. And Tom is really passionate about economic empowerment, poverty alleviation, and education, and has done work in rural North Carolina. And we're thrilled to have you on board here today, Tom. Have at it.
Absolutely. Today I'm going to talk about an exciting phenomenon that's distinctly American, occurring within the technology industry, and distinctly rural. And so if moving ahead, 2 slides ahead, earlier this year, the International County and City Managers Association published an article that I had written entitled "The Rural American Job Revolution You Know Nothing About." And so, as was stated, I work for one of the fastest growing open source software companies that has a global revenue of $1.5 billion and operates in 54 countries globally. But it started as a garage-based business and that just experienced rapid growth. Well, Red Hat has experienced this rapid growth because of the evolution of technology, and is the availability of creative individuals who are in software development and software engineering. And over the past 30 years, the availability of these types of individuals has been extremely limited. And throughout the late 1980s into the early 2000s, American companies who are operating in the technology space were turning towards overseas countries, were turning towards other areas outside of the U.S. to find this talent that was scarcely available within the U.S. and frankly was very expensive to find. But here we are, fast forward 10, 15 years later, and a lot of the reasons that were fueling this global outsourcing trend have turned back around. And I would bet that no one, or very few on this call, specifically 15,000 jobs have been created within the U.S., within the technology industry, distinctly to rural U.S. communities. That's 15,000 jobs within software engineering, quality engineering, and software development. But it's not happening where you would think. And so this article that was published in ICMA covered what's known as the rural sourcing or domestic sourcing trend. And what's happening is that businesses that are located within rural communities that have a strong partnership with some of the educational institutions in that area are starting to cultivate development and engineering talent. And it's not happening in Silicon Valley, it's not happening in Austin, it's not happening in Raleigh, North Carolina for that matter. It's happening in the rural Midwest, in Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Michigan, and even in some of the rural Southeast. So the U.S. is responding en masse by working within rural communities to build the types of public-private partnerships to cultivate a workforce that will help respond to some of the global macroeconomic needs within the technology industry. Now, moving forward to the next slide, what are some of these macro factors that are fueling the rapid growth of the technology industry itself? And the first is the pace of technological change. We in many ways are living in fast forward. You look at the emergence of new technologies, you look at the growth of smart technologies and smart devices, and some of the leading industry analysts are saying that over 3 million jobs are going to be created for software developers over the next 5 years. Where is that talent going to come from? Well, as I mentioned, historically it's come from India, it's come from China. In recent years it's come from Eastern Europe and Latin America. But because of that phenomenon, and because of the intense competition in these areas, those low-cost destinations are becoming less low-cost in nature. So there's rising tolls on the figurative Silk Road. It's becoming much more expensive for U.S. companies to turn towards these traditionally lower-cost destinations. And therefore, they're looking internally They're looking at the U.S. and they're looking at lower cost U.S. locations that can develop and support this type of workforce. And as they've started turning back to the U.S. and started working with firms, entrepreneurial firms in rural communities, it's become much more accepted practice to look at rural U.S.-based firms at the C-level. So no longer are you going to be an outlier for turning towards a Nebraska-based business or a Kansas-based business to support your needs within development. But then underpinning all of this is that there's a gap known as the STEM gap in science, technology, engineering, and math. The talent that's being developed right now and the gaps within engineering focus, within advanced analytical focus, within their aptitude for advanced mathematics. So the private sector is responding by helping to implement programs that cultivate this type of knowledge. And there are several examples of firms within the rural U.S. who are partnered with universities to develop curriculum that's more pertinent to the types of challenges that are faced within the private sector. And as a result, you're getting the private sector to fill that traditional STEM gap that exists right now within American public education. So all of these factors are generating a significant opportunity for rural entrepreneurs to start technology-based businesses and extend technology-based businesses. Moving on to the next slide. An example of why this is happening, you look at the locations on the map here. These are areas where some of the largest domestic sourcing businesses are located. And as mentioned, they're in the Great Plains region, the Midwest, and the U.S. Southeast in rural locations. Now, to the left of this slide, you see the demand that's coming from private organizations. This is an example from 2013 in the Raleigh-Durham market alone. These are publicly stated hiring initiatives that were announced by these firms in 2013. 3,581 development jobs, these are entry-level development jobs, are being asked for from the Raleigh-Durham market. Currently, when you look at our educational infrastructure in Raleigh-Durham, only 702 computer science graduates come out of the 3 leading universities in the area. So we have to turn towards other areas to get this sort of talent, to bring this sort of talent in-house. And Red Hat partnered with firms in Kansas, in Nebraska, and in southeastern Georgia to start to bring this talent and meet some of the demands that we have and the needs we have from our growing business. Moving forward to the next slide, even though we are partnered with firms in Nebraska who are experiencing rapid growth, there's one firm known as Expansion who's located in Kearney, Nebraska. They've seen over 70% revenue growth over the past 6 months alone. They are bringing talent into rural communities. But when you look at the demographic trends specific to the rural Midwest, it presents an immediate challenge. Where as a rural-based business are you going to find talent scale? You can work extensively with the educational infrastructure in rural locations to cultivate the talent. You can embark on initiatives like the state of Iowa is doing and like the state of Nebraska are doing to recruit high-performing individuals who have left for the cities back to the rural communities with incentives, in some cases very significant incentives. But at some point, that doesn't become scalable. The growth outpaces the demographic influences. What you see on this map here is our counties within the rural U.S. that have experienced out-migration of greater than 10%. Now, a lot of this you would speculate would be poverty-driven or opportunity-driven, but what we're seeing is that by and large, demographics are taking talented individuals out of the rural Midwest and out of rural communities within the U.S. and leaving gaping holes. So a challenge a rural-based business is going to find is achieving talent scale and pacing talent cultivation and workforce development with the level of growth that businesses are going to see. Moving on to the next slide, to the left you see some of the factors that are going to continue to limit rural technology business growth. And as mentioned, demographic trends are working significantly around businesses that are located in the rural Midwest. But most often cited by CEOs in the rural sourcing movement and for rural-based technology businesses is managerial talent retention and recruitment. How do you take technology managers who've worked in Silicon Valley or in an Austin and bring them into a rural Midwest location or a rural Southeast location where the level of diversity, level of culture is certainly not at par with their prior living experiences? A third factor is tech hub economics. As you start to see technology businesses, creative businesses grow within communities, you start to see that creativity, that creative energy gain momentum and start to attract more and more tangential businesses. And that's what we're seeing in tech hubs like Austin and Raleigh. So even though we're unable to meet that talent demand right now, and we're turning into the rural Midwest and turning overseas in some cases, we're starting to cultivate more and more of a tech hub presence and starting to attract different types of businesses. This can happen in rural Midwest communities or rural U.S. communities, but it is going to be a competing factor. And as mentioned, culture. Culture continues to be, and lifestyle considerations continue to be limiting factors of rural U.S. businesses. Even though the demand is there, even though the growth will continue to be there, the growth opportunity will continue to be there, lifestyle considerations will tend to hamper the growth of those businesses and the ability to develop and exploit new market opportunities. Most interestingly, though, is I spoke last week to Kevin Burkhart, who's the Executive Vice President of a rural technology firm based in Northern Plains, Minnesota. And he said that the number one limiting factor as they've gone into communities like Pierre, South Dakota, as they've gone into parts of rural Arizona, is that the surrounding infrastructure, including housing availability, including the availability of basic infrastructure type services, banking, for example, have tended to limit some of the growth of those businesses and limited the recruitment of those rural-based technology businesses. And that's why you see states, localities, and executives within rural communities starting to collaborate on strategies to bring back individuals into these communities, individuals who have left. And you'll also see that it's very collaborative, that these individuals are working with communities to enhance and build the culture that will ultimately retain some of this level of talent. Moving forward to the next slide, what we would anticipate seeing within the technology market is that opportunity will continue to grow. Technology-based businesses will continue to have unbounded opportunities. And that's whether they're located in downtown Washington, D.C., or Silicon Valley, or in Hays, Kansas. The opportunity will be there. But at some point, the workforce will not be able to keep pace with the growth opportunity, and so you will start to see technology businesses shift to lower cost rural regions with more favorable demographics. And the winners and losers are going to be determined by the firms that can proactively partner with the public sector, with educational entities, and with communities themselves to generate that type of entrepreneurial climate, to foster the sort of tangential business growth that supports further entrepreneurship and technology leadership and business leadership. So turning towards the future, look for rural business growth in the Midwest, rural technology-based business growth in the Midwest to plateau in the relative short time frame of 3 to 5 years, and looked for a shift towards the Southeast, Mid-South Appalachian region, and towards the Imperial Valley, southern Arizona region, Southern California regions. Looking forward and moving to the next slide, looking even more forward into the future, moving to next slide. Looking even further into the future, firms that want to meet the talent need and want to forge effective partnerships with businesses in rural communities are going to start to analyze the composition, the demographics, the economics of counties within the U.S. To determine what are the best spots for investment and where is it likely to see, where are businesses likely to see the right type of factors, the right confluence of factors to support business growth. And so you can, as a rural entrepreneur, demographics, the economics of the county are going to be important as firms do their due diligence on what partner technology firms they want to work with. They're going to look for balanced communities that can support technology entrepreneurship. They're going to look for community collaboration that can support increasing investment from a larger global entity to smaller businesses in their partner ecosystem. So fast forwarding it here to the conclusion, and the maps you can see are sort of some of the research that Red Hat's done with some of their partners on favorable demographics, favorable areas for investment, working with our partner ecosystem to invest in some of these areas, or at least to look at the infrastructure and collaboration in some of these areas and enhancing that level of investment. And moving forward to the conclusion, in summary, the growth for rural-based technology-based rural businesses is unbounded in the short term. The factors that have led U.S.-based businesses to turn overseas are now reaching a point where it becomes more favorable for businesses to partner with U.S.-located businesses in low-cost regions. So the growth is there. Rural entrepreneurship, technology-based rural entrepreneurship has never been at a better point. The U.S. is more globally competitive, so we're starting to see some degree of wage parity. We're also starting to get a sense at the executive level that outsourcing has not met the intended objectives and tends to be more costly, and oftentimes those costs outweigh the benefits. So the U.S. is becoming more globally competitive. Manufacturing industry, but we're now starting to see this acutely within the technology industry. The private sector itself is filling the extensive STEM gap right now. Public institutions are not bringing the type of talent to market that's necessary for competition in this global economy, and so rural entrepreneurial firms have stepped up in developing curriculum and partnering with public sector firms to advance this curriculum and really get the type of talent and cultivate that type of talent that is attuned for success in the technology industry and within the private sector. But they're not alone, so it's not just working with private businesses, it's working with the surrounding ecosystem. It's working with bankers within the community. It's working with entrepreneurial support, working with community economic development entities, working with federal economic development entities to build the type of investment ecosystem for supporting the growth of technology-based business. They can't do it alone. It's a multi-level effort that involves the public and private sector. firms that are successful within taking deliberate measures to reattract, retain, and attract talent to rural areas. So in many cases, they're using their unique cultural and geographic attributes to appeal to those who want to grow up in a rural community or who have raised their family in a rural community but just so happen to not be able to find a job historically in that rural community. They're reaching out to bring these types of individuals back. And one final economy. Geographic barriers are being broken down because of the ubiquity of collaboration technology and its low cost. People at a very near point in our future, 5 years out, maybe 3 years out, people are going to be able to work where they want to, and companies are going to have to meld themselves to be adaptable to present those type of opportunities to individuals. And there's a large percentage of individuals who are attracted to smaller towns and rural regions or to recreational type regions. And they are going to be able to locate in these regions and still contribute to the global economic engine through technology. So place will matter less, and this presents a very significant opportunity for rural America. So in summary, the growth is unbounded. Place will matter less, but it's inherent on rural entrepreneurs to build the type of collaborative ecosystem to support the growth opportunities and to enable them to exploit those wholly. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Great, Tom. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that great overview of some big picture trends and what's going on. We do encourage anyone on the webinar to type their questions into the chat box, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. And in the meantime, I'm going to offer up a couple of pieces of advice based on my own experience working with many entrepreneurs and being a part of an entrepreneurial company myself. You know, a few things that that our earlier speakers have touched on, and others that I've just seen that are separate from their comments. You know, the first thing I'll just say is hire slow and fire fast. What I mean by that is hiring people is one of the most important decisions you'll make. And if you hire the wrong people, it causes all kinds of problems. So hire slow is my advice, basically saying be really, really careful and make sure you're hiring the right people. You know, that means checking references. Check the references of people that they give you, but also check other references. You know, you can call up their former employees, even the ones that they don't list. Call people that might know them and just ask for good advice on whether this is a good employee or not. Just be really careful hiring slow. But at the same time, if you know a person is not working out, then the best thing you can do is let them go sooner than later. You know, certainly there are ways you can try to develop and improve an employee's performance. You don't want to cut them loose right away, but there's often a point when you know this just isn't the right fit. And many entrepreneurs make the mistake of just hoping things will get better, when in reality that person is going to be causing all kinds of problems for the organization just because they're not the right fit. Other employees lose morale. You get frustrated with them. The best thing to do is just let that person go. Maybe they can find a job that's a better fit for them, while you find an employee that's a better fit for you. So that's hiring slow and firing fast. You know, second piece of advice is to focus on your company culture. You know, every company has its own culture, and you as an entrepreneur have a vision for where you want this thing to go. You want to make sure that your employees understand and share that vision, and people that really want to work together and really want to work towards that shared goal, and do that within a culture that everyone enjoys. Not everybody is meant to work in a startup or a small company. You want to make sure that the people you hire can thrive in the environment that you've created. And as an entrepreneur, you're in charge of your company's culture. That's something that you can't delegate to anyone else. One way to make sure your new employees can fit into the company culture is called the 100% rule. And this is a rule that basically says that when you're making a hire, everybody that's currently in the company, 100% of your current employees, have to interview and agree on the new hire. You know, that can be a high bar to cross for some candidates, but that's one way to make sure that everybody in the company agrees that this person is a good fit. Because you as the boss are not always going to be there to help train and develop and work alongside this person. So the other employees are going to be a key part of their success. So getting that buy-in early. The 100% rule only works up to a certain size company, maybe 10 people or more or fewer. So at a certain point, it doesn't work to be 100%. But having multiple people in the company be a part of the selection and approval process for a new hire is a good idea. So my third piece of advice is look for a balanced team. So balance is key. You know, understand your own weaknesses. Find people that have those as strengths, and also look for diversity, not just in ideas or the traditional ways of thinking of diversity, but different types of talent and specialties. As I mentioned, you know, find people that have strengths that are your weaknesses, and that's an important thing to do. You know, when we're talking about a balanced team and diversity, this may be a good place to point out the challenges and pitfalls and joys of having family members within your business. This is really common in small companies, and I think especially in rural areas. You know, many people claim that working in a business alongside a spouse or their children or cousins or aunts and uncles and siblings, you know, working with family can be a wonderful, wonderful joy. It can be one of the most wonderful experiences to be able to share that experience with family members that you love and care about. Of course, it can also be one of the most painful things you can do. You can fire an employee. You can't fire a spouse or a sibling or other family members. Or at least it's a little harder, I guess. And Thanksgiving dinner can be really, really awkward around this after those things happen. Certainly, so it's not to say don't hire family members, but just make sure that this is somebody that you can work with, that everybody's going to be happy afterwards. It really can be difficult. So be careful there. So my fourth piece of advice is follow the law. Hiring is one of the areas of startups that are most fraught with legal problems. You know, every state, every region has different laws around employment. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing, that you're following all the laws. You don't want a former employee to come back and sue you, or a government agency to come and tell you you haven't been following the right tax laws or employment laws or whatever it might be. So you need to find a lawyer in your community that knows the laws in your community that can really help you with those employment issues. If you don't have that good business lawyer, then the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, as Jody mentioned earlier, is a good resource to help you find a good small business lawyer that can help you with this idea. My fifth piece of advice is keep the good ones. You know, once you hire good employees, make sure they stay happy. It can be an incredibly frantic pace in a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, and people are frequently overworked, especially the people that you know will get the job done. They often get more and more work piled onto them. So make sure you stay aware of that and reward those people. You know, rewarding might mean financial rewards, giving them a piece of the business or bonuses based on their performance. It can also mean just making sure that they stay engaged in the big picture and the vision of the business. Sometimes it's easy to turn over day-to-day operations to someone else while you are involved in maybe bigger picture vision or long-term projects. And just make sure that the good people on your team, that you stay in touch with their needs and their interests, because that's one of the most difficult things, is to lose somebody who you really can't afford to lose. My last piece of advice on this is don't try to do it all. You know, hiring and finding people can be a real big challenge, but there's no way an entrepreneur can grow a company without a good team. So it's one of the most important things you can do. Don't try to do it all. Don't kill yourself, but find good people to help you out. So those are a few pieces of advice that I have and learned over the years. And I want to ask our two panelists, Jody and Tom, if you have any kind of final comments you want to share with our audience before we sign off here. So, Jody, is there anything that we missed or that you want to echo, or last words that you want to add?
I'll just reiterate that many of the resources that I mentioned are located in every state. The Small Business Development Center network, for example, there is an SBDC network in every state in the union, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands. So, and there are over 900 local offices. So every congressional district has an SBDC. So if there's not one immediately in your community, especially in rural areas, there's not one immediately in your community, there is typically an SBDC circuit rider that will come out to your community on a regular basis. And you just pick up the phone, give them a call, and they'll schedule a time to connect up with you. So don't hesitate to tap into that resource.
I'll echo that. I've worked with SBDCs before, and that is a wonderful resource. And I know Jody said this, but it's free. It is free, and these are people that are there to help, and they work with small businesses all day long. So, and there is a small business development center in all over the country, and frequently in rural areas. Maybe you might have to drive a county or two over to meet somebody in person, but they're not going to be that far away, and it's a wonderful resource. So thank you so much, Jody. Tom, anything you want to add here before we close out?
Yeah, I would say to rural entrepreneurs who are thinking about a technology business, it's hard to believe, and it was hard for me to believe that I'd ever be doing business and setting foot in Kearney, Nebraska, to look for development and engineering talent. To me, that those two just didn't go well together. And the fact that a business with the growth and trajectory of Red Hat would be turning towards the rural communities didn't seem feasible to me 3 years ago. But if the talent is there and the entrepreneurial vision and leadership is there, big name firms will come to your town. Big name firms will do business in rural areas. I've seen it. It only continues to grow. Bank of America, Lowe's, Home Depot, Red Hat, Cisco, they are all supporting the growth of rural-based technology businesses. So don't view the rural location as a limiting factor. And then secondly, America is shifting from a rural development strategy that's focused on technology-based sustainable industry with a low ecological footprint. So take advantage of some of these recent initiatives, take advantage of some of these economic development opportunities that have been mentioned in the prior presentation, because the federal money and the state money appears to be there to support this transition in rural economic development strategy. So I would say, if the vision's there, look for the support and move forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to our audience. This is going to conclude our webinar today, and this also concludes this year's webinar series. All of the slides from the several webinars that we have done this year are available. Today's will be soon available at the website strongruralamerica.com, strongruralamerica.com. And that's also the place to look for future webinars and future information about the Rural Entrepreneurship Initiative. We're thrilled from Georgetown University to be doing this in partnership with the American Farm Bureau Federation, and we love supporting those wonderful, wonderful people all across America who are taking the chance to start a company and do something great. So we love our rural entrepreneurs. We thank everyone who is working with us to help support this effort. And once again, best wishes to all those rural entrepreneurs out there. Thanks so much.